Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit now about some of the solar projects that are ongoing. As one of the biggest ones everybody's aware of is the Samsung projects. And so when we first started the engagement with Samsung, it was just one project. Since that time, Samsung divided itself into two separate projects. So they have the Samsung Grand Renewable Wind Project and they have the Grand Renewable Solar Project. The wind project is pretty much winding down now. The archaeology, we finished up archaeology there last week, or the last 2 weeks, I guess 2 weeks ago. And so construction, they've pretty much got everything done there, the roads, everything's done. And so we are now more into the solar side of things. And if you recall in the local news recently, we've had some incidents of issues with bones being found and dealing with artifacts going missing, like all these kind of things were happening on the Samsung Solar project. And what we have learned and what we have been able to work out with the archaeology consultant in that process and with the solar project is that what happened is that because of the initial find of these bones, which turned out to be cattle bones. There's a big farming area, and so it's not uncommon to find skeletal remains of cattle. But anyway, what happened is that the Eco Center's monitors took those artifacts home, and they indicated, we had one of the monitors attend one of our Confederacy meetings with the HDI. As a matter of fact, she showed up and she was concerned, indicated that she was very concerned and that she didn't trust the archaeology consultant and that she took those home. And she was wondering why the HDI had told the consultant to hang on to those artifacts. Like, we're trying to bring everything back together. And so just as part of clarity or point of clarity, I think I need to talk about why that happened. And so basically what happened is you get a situation, you're dealing with archaeology, you have a find the night before, and the next day you go there and the artifacts are gone. So of course we raised concerns. Of course it was a big concern, and quite frankly, it's a matter that the police should have been called in, and there should have been charges laid against whoever took those things. Now, we didn't know at that time who had taken them, but so what happened is we began an investigation. We stopped the project. We had to stop the project. It's like, what's going on here? Where are these artifacts going? And so we shut down the solar, the archaeology project, and then once we were able to determine what happened, we got the consultant, we found out where the artifacts were, everybody was back on the same page, and we began to proceed with the archaeology again. And since that time, as far as I understand, the artifacts have been returned. And just to give you an understanding of why it was agreed to have the archaeology consultant hold on to those artifacts for now. Right now, the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sports has rules and regulations that they follow. And they're very outdated. We've talked about this before on some of our table talks in the past. And while the HDI is currently continuing to reach out to the ministry to talk about re-looking at those policies, especially the ones around burials and things that are very, I guess they conflict is a good word to say. They conflict with Haudenosaunee policy. So while we're working those things out, the biggest part of what the issue is that there are a number of artifacts. You can find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of artifacts. You get the chert flakes that you find on a site in any given day. And so the Haudenosaunee are not prepared to start bringing those things home until they have a place to put them. And so by law, and this is on the process of the ministry's side, that consultant is responsible for them. So rather than cause confusion, rather than to upset things at this point, we know where those artifacts are, as long as we know that consultant is obligated to hold on to them. And so that when we talked about it with the chiefs, they had agreed that we would just leave it with them for now, and that when and if we are prepared to start bringing things home, whether we're building museums, whether, whatever ideas or discussions that come into the future, or in our negotiations or our engagement with the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sports, as we move forward and try to educate them on how to help them make changes in their processes. For now, it was felt to just leave things alone. And so that's why it was agreed to let the artifacts stay with the archaeology consultant. And now we've begun the process again. The monitoring is ongoing. There's a number of areas that, like a couple of times, like I said, the cattle bones were found. The things were analyzed, it was found to be just cattle. And so those things have sort of settled themselves down. And I think sometimes we make big issues when we don't necessarily have to, but then sometimes they try to lessen the issue when you should be making a big one. And so we've tried very hard to keep our people updated and informed on what's really going on out there, and to set aside some of the gossip and rumors that were happening. And I think I also need to talk a little bit about, while that was taking place, we also had our new communications process going on. And so there was some suggestion somehow that monitors were afraid to talk to the press, afraid they were going to lose their jobs, like those kind of things that were being said. And I think, first of all, I would like to clarify that since finding out trying to find out what was happening and what was being discussed, I did learn that there's an individual who was not an HDI monitor that did speak to the press, that did advise that he was afraid to lose his job, because it's the same person that came to us when there was a lot of very health and safety issues that were going on at the site. And he came anonymously because he was afraid to lose his job. And so he came to the Chiefs Council and he came to HDI and he looked for help. And so the Confederacy at that time wrote a letter to the construction company. They brought in the Ministry of Labor and said, listen, you got some issues here you need to deal with. And so as a result of that, a lot of things happened at that construction site, a lot of things for the good that needed to be addressed. Well, that same person, from what I understand, then talked to a member of a press, and he suggested, or they suggested, that he was an HDI monitor, when in fact he wasn't. But he was, he is Haudenosaunee, and I think that out of respect for that individual, I mean, we're not talking about his names, but that's why that situation came up. That's why it was suggested that, one of the HDI monitors was afraid to talk to the press. It wasn't that at all. It's just that there's a lot of things that go on, and this person doesn't work directly for the HDI. He just works out there in the construction field, and so that's kind of why he just asked that he not be named. And so I just wanted to clear that up too, because that seems to be something that there's a lot of allegations or suggestions, and I wanted to be clear on that, on what really happened out there. So so that's just on the Samsung project, and like I said, the archaeology is ongoing. As we have more things come up, we'll be able to update you more in the next Table Talks. I can also update you quickly on the NextEra projects. If there's two more of the projects that the Confederacy has made agreements as part of the engagement process, and so two more have come to their completion date, so they'll be up and running in the next probably couple of weeks. And we've got other areas ongoing, a lot of the monitoring that goes on, and there's some in the London area with the NextEra projects. We've got ongoing monitoring of Union Gas projects. We've recently been approached by Enbridge, who is running a gas line along the 407, and so we're trying to we're working on an engagement agreement with them just to do for the monitoring of those projects as well. So there's a lot of things that are going on, but we'll talk more about them on the next Table Talks. So that's pretty much it for Table Talks today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to call us. The number, the Watts line, should be on the screen here. You can email us, and you're welcome to stop in anytime. The door's always open. Now.